So there's also this labels tab, and it has all sorts of settings in here, but the first one at the top is detection mode. So that's hitting that that first sculpt, but it's looking for only visible sculpts. So if you make that invisible, it'll ignore it. It won't count it as a hit when it hits an object that is not visible, unless you set it to only finding visible things. But then if that is visible again, then it'll ignore it. Or it can just not care about that at all and hit for both, so it doesn't matter what this setting is. And the same for collision, so if I make that non-collidable, it won't find it again. You can tell because it doesn't have that green arrow, by the way. So now it's colliding and registering a hit, and if that collidable is off, it won't register the hit. And these work the same. It also cares about what the label is, so by default all of these are on, so whatever label setup you have, it'll find it. Unlabeled means none of the labels are on at all. So if I did this, if I turned off all the other labels and only had unlabeled and gave that a label, this is no longer considered unlabeled, so it won't register a hit on this sculpt. But then if you give it a friend label and that's looking for a friend label, then it will hit it again. If it's only looking for a friend and then this doesn't have friend, then it won't hit it, which makes kind of sense. There's also all selected, so even if this was looking for friend, scenery and object, this only has friend. So it would work in any selected because friend is one of the ones that it's looked for. But if it needs all selected, then it needs friend, scenery and object. So friend, scenery and object, and now it finds it. And it can have extra labels, but it has to have these at least. There's also this X-ray mode. If we turn that off and we give it a more range so that it can hit the ground. So this would normally hit the ground because it can get there. Now if we turn these labels off and make it so that it's looking for a label, so it's not going to register a hit on this, but because it went through a sculpt, it won't register any hit, because the first sculpt it hit wasn't what it was looking for, unless you turn on X-ray mode. So if we have the ground have the label friend, then it will register a hit with that, even if it wasn't the first one that it encountered. And that's what X-ray does. If you want to have a laser scope looking for the puppet for the player or something, let's just set that up. So I'll put a tag on the puppet and we'll call it P for player. Then we'll have the laser scope aim for that tag, P for puppet. So it would hit it, and let's give it the label friend. And if we have X-ray off, then it's currently hitting it because there's nothing in the way. If we copy that, which doesn't have the label friend, and put that in the way of the laser scope, then it won't register a hit at all, because so this is good for, like, there's an enemy guard and it's looking for the player, but there's a wall in the way, so even though the player is in range, it won't register a hit because it's got some other sculpt in the way of it. But then if you want to turn that X-ray mode, then it will find it even through walls. So that's good for different things. I'd like to thank Scheme DBT, Scully Volley, Hemlock, and all of my other supporters for making this tutorial possible. Check out TAPgiles.com to find out how you can support me in helping Dreams creators. Thanks for your consideration, and I'll see you in the next one.